Some stories begin just like any other day, seemingly ordinary, but soon something extraordinary happens. One sunny afternoon in New York City, under the glowing storefronts of Fifth Avenue, the bustling world seemed normal. Crowds of people rushing by, luxury cars parked along the curb, and the sparkle of jewelry in every store window. But something was about to shift, something that no one could have predicted, yet something that no one could forget. In the heart of the city, where opulence ruled and designer brands set the standard, a modest-looking elderly woman quietly stepped into Lester and Hunt fine jewelry. Her hesitant steps seemed out of place in such an exclusive space. To the trained eyes of the salespeople, she was just someone who didn't fit the right profile. Her simple floral dress, worn shoes, and calm demeanor didn't match the usual customers. But what no one could see, what they couldn't know, was that this woman carried a story, a connection to something far beyond the price tags lining the store shelves. A story that would soon make the entire world pay attention. As she walked through the heavy glass door, the soft chime of the bells echoed through the store. Margaret Evans, a 75-year-old woman, moved with quiet determination. Her simple, yet well-kept clothing didn't scream wealth or high fashion, but her eyes carried a quiet confidence, as if she had seen more of life than what lay on the surface. She wasn't overwhelmed by the luxury that filled the space, nor was she there to be dazzled. No, she was there for something else, something she had carefully planned. Across the store, Daniel Reed, a senior salesman, noticed her. Daniel was known not just for his talent in selling high-value jewelry, but for his sharp eye when it came to judging who was worth his time. And at first glance, Margaret didn't fit the mold. She didn't wear designer clothes, carry an expensive handbag, or seem like someone who belonged in a place filled with shining gold and glittering sapphires. He made a quick assessment. Simple dress, worn shoes, her overall appearance, none of it belonged in a store like this. Without hesitation, he exchanged a glance with a colleague nearby, who simply shook her head, silently agreeing. This woman wasn't worth wasting their time on. With his polished smile, Daniel approached. His tone was polite, but it carried a hint of condescension. "Good afternoon, ma'am. How may I assist you today?" Margaret responded with a soft smile. "I'm looking for a special gift, perhaps a pair of sapphire earrings." Daniel's smile tightened slightly as if trying to hide his disbelief. "Sapphire earrings?" His tone shifted, less hopeful, more dismissive. Of course we have a few options." He motioned toward the display counter, his movements practiced and efficient, though his eyes gave away his skepticism. Margaret followed him calmly. As she approached the display, she carefully examined the earrings in the mirror. The diamonds seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, casting a dazzling glow. Daniel, standing nearby, watched her closely. His Rolex watch gleamed on his wrist as he folded his arms, his lips curving into a tight smile, one meant to appear polite, but beneath it, there was unmistakable disdain. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying that particular tone used by those who speak to people they think won't understand something valuable, "these pieces aren't really meant to be handled casually. They're quite exclusive." His tone made it clear he believed she wouldn't know how to truly appreciate what she was seeing. Margaret responded calmly. "The craftsmanship is exceptional." Daniel let out a short, dry laugh. "Exceptional, Well, exceptional craftsmanship comes with an exceptional price tag." His tone was sharp now. "These aren't exactly the kind of accessory one wears to, let's say, a senior center event." He gestured subtly to a wealthy couple nearby who shifted uncomfortably in their seats, clearly aware of the situation. Margaret remained quiet, continuing to admire the earrings as if she didn't hear his comment. But Daniel wasn't finished. His eyes scanned her modest floral dress, taking in her appearance like someone examining counterfeit money. "Whatever senior center events you might attend, I doubt they have clientele with the means to afford something like this." Several customers near the counter bristled at his tone, glancing around awkwardly. Alex, a junior associate nearby, busied himself with adjusting a display case, clearly listening intently. Margaret met his gaze evenly. "I'm quite familiar with fine jewelry." "Oh?" Daniel's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Were you working in the wardrobe of one of those establishments?" His eyes flicked to her worn purse, a sharp, deliberate glance that spoke volumes about his assumptions. "These pieces," he continued with a smirk, "require more than just appreciation. They require the means to pay for them." His words carried a clear message. This store, this jewelry wasn't for people like her. "I've worked with high-quality accessories for many years," Margaret replied, her voice steady and calm. Daniel's smile twisted into something cruel. "Well, working in a store doesn't exactly translate to owning something like this. These pieces aren't just about beauty, they come with a price. And not just any price. $30,000? He enunciated each word slowly, as though speaking to someone who wouldn't understand what that meant. That's more than your entire wardrobe, your handbag, and likely your monthly Social Security check combined. A few customers nearby were now beginning to look uncomfortable. The older man in a sharp Tom Ford suit turned toward them, clearly horrified by Daniel's behavior. But Daniel didn't seem to care. I have a responsibility to protect our merchandise, Daniel continued, his tone hardening. You don't belong here. You don't belong in this store. Margaret remained composed, but her eyes flashed with something, dignity maybe. The price isn't everything. Daniel leaned in, his smile turning sharp. It's about knowing your place. About understanding who you are and where you belong. This store, he gestured around at the polished countertops and gleaming showcases, is for people like me. People who can afford it. People like you? You should stick to window shopping. The store fell into an uncomfortable silence. Even the security guard standing by the door shifted, his eyes darting between them. Margaret stood tall, refusing to back down. Young man, she said softly but firmly, please don't speak to me this way. Daniel's smile didn't fade, but it became colder. Let me be clear. This isn't your place. The exit is right behind you. He gestured with his hand. Next time, stick to looking at things. It's free and it doesn't waste anyone's valuable time. At that moment, the unmistakable rumble of a motorcycle engine roared through the thick tension in the air. The security door buzzed open and people turned to look. But it wasn't just the sound, it was the confidence with which it arrived. Karma, like the most flawless diamonds, never comes quietly. When the light hit just right and exactly 30 seconds passed, Daniel would learn that the true cost of being rude couldn't be measured in carats. Suddenly, the sound of a motorcycle echoed across the shiny marble floor of Lester and Hunt Fine Jewelry, silencing everyone inside the store. A tall man wearing a brown leather jacket walked through the security doors, carrying a helmet under one arm. His presence changed the air, making it feel heavy with excitement. Daniel turned to see the visitor, and his expression shifted from being rude to surprised. In an instant, the same smile he had refused to give to Margaret now spread across his face. Mr. Reeves. What an unexpected honor. Daniel nearly tripped over his own feet as he walked toward the man. Welcome to Lester and Hunt. I would be happy to show you our latest collection of... But Keanu Reeves wasn't looking at Daniel. His eyes found Margaret, and a warm smile spread across his face, brighter than all the store's lights combined. Mom, he said simply, walking over to her. Sorry I'm late, he added. Fifth Avenue traffic was brutal. Hearing the word Mom thundered through the store like a loud clap of thunder. The color drained from Daniel's face so fast, he had to grab the edge of a display case to keep steady. The fancy couple who had ignored the earlier fight suddenly seemed very interested in the jewelry, pretending to browse. Oh, it's all right, dear, Margaret replied, her voice calm and graceful like always. This young man was just explaining to me about knowing one's place. Keanu turned to Daniel, his eyes calm, but there was something in them that made Daniel take a step back. What place would that be? Keanu asked softly, but his voice carried through the store. Daniel's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Sweat began to bead on his forehead even though the store was cool. I didn't know, Mr. Reeves, Daniel stammered. That's the problem, isn't it? Keanu interrupted gently. You didn't know. You didn't know she designed costumes for some of Hollywood's biggest films. You didn't know she raised me alone, teaching me the value of treating everyone with respect. You knew nothing about her, but you decided she didn't belong here. Alex, the young associate, stepped forward. Mrs. Taylor, if you're still interested, I'd be happy to show you our full sapphire collection. We have some beautiful pieces that would suit your eyes perfectly. Daniel shot Alex a look of betrayal, but Keanu nodded in approval of the young associate's kindness. Margaret gently touched her son's arm. Actually, I think I've seen enough jewelry for today. Maybe we can grab a coffee at that little place on the corner? Of course, Mom, Keanu smiled. Do they still make your favorite lemon scones? As they walked away, Keanu paused and looked back at Daniel, who looked like he wanted to disappear into his expensive suit. You know what's interesting about jewelry? Keanu asked, his voice clear. The real value isn't always in what shines the brightest. Sometimes it's about kindness, respect, and how you treat others. My mom taught me that. He smiled at Margaret. There's no price tag on that lesson. The security door buzzed one last time as mother and son left, leaving behind a deep silence, broken only by the ticking of Daniel's expensive watch, counting the seconds of his now reconsidered career. The store manager, who had come out of his office during the commotion, cleared his throat. "Daniel, my office. Now." Alex watched through the window as Keanu helped his mom onto the motorcycle, handing her an extra helmet. He couldn't hear their laughter, but he could see the joy on their faces. Back inside the store, the wealthy couple who had seen everything now looked at their luxury purchases with slightly different eyes. Sometimes, the most valuable things in life don't come in fancy boxes. Alex watched as Keanu carefully placed the helmet on Margaret and helped her onto the motorcycle. Her laughter was still inaudible from inside the store, but it was visible in the relaxed and joyful expression on her face. Keanu adjusted the straps on her helmet with the care of a devoted son before climbing onto the bike himself. The two rode off, carrying an aura of peace and strength that seemed to brighten the entire street. Alex sighed and turned his gaze back to the store, where customers murmured among themselves. Daniel remained frozen by the counter, his hands trembling as they rested on the display case. The fake smile he had worn like armor had completely vanished. He looked small, diminished by what he had just witnessed. Alex calmly cleaned a nearby display case but couldn't help making a comment. "Well, that was educational." Daniel slowly turned his head, his eyes shooting a mix of anger and shame at the younger associate. "Don't start, Alex." Alex shrugged and leaned casually against the display case. "I'm not saying anything you don't already know. It's just," he nodded toward the store's swinging door, "that was a masterclass in how to be human." Daniel let out a heavy sigh, but before he could respond, the store manager, Mr. Bennett, emerged from his office with a stern look. He locked eyes with Daniel, his expression heavy with disappointment. "Daniel," Mr. Bennett began, his voice low but filled with authority, "when you started here, I saw potential in you. I thought I'd found someone who understood the balance between exclusivity and respect. But today you threw all of that away." Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but the manager raised a hand to silence him. "No, you're going to listen. Today you put us at the center of a storm. Not only did you humiliate a customer, but you did so without even bothering to understand her. It doesn't matter who she was. It doesn't matter if she was Keanu Reeves' mom or just an ordinary person. The point is you failed." Daniel lowered his head, the weight of the manager's words pressing down on him. "I made a mistake," he whispered. "Yes, you did," Mr. Bennett said firmly. The wealthy couple had leaned forward, listening closely. "But a mistake like this isn't something we can just brush under the rug. Your attitude today showed who you really are, and that doesn't match with this store's values." Meanwhile, out on the sales floor, Alex continued helping customers with a warm and genuine approach. The wealthy couple who had witnessed everything walked up to him. "So, how long have you worked here?" the man asked, trying to be friendly. Alex smiled. "Long enough to know that people are more important than price tags." The woman looked at him, clearly impressed. "You know, after today I think we'll be rethinking what truly matters." Alex nodded, watching as they walked out of the store hand in hand, leaving behind the jewelry they had considered buying. Outside, Keanu and Margaret arrived at a cozy little cafe. The place smelled of fresh coffee and lemon scones. As they sat down, Margaret looked at her son with a playful smile. "You made quite the scene back there, didn't you?" Keanu chuckled, taking her hand. "Sometimes, Mom, a scene is exactly what people need to wake up." She shook her head, smiling but also proud. "I just hope he learned something from it." Keanu shrugged. "If he didn't learn today, the world will teach him. But what matters most is that you were treated as you deserve." Margaret took a sip of her tea and looked out the window, her heart warmed, not just by her son's gesture, but by the lesson that moment had taught everyone around them. Because sometimes the real shine isn't in what glitters, it's in how we choose to light up the world around us. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. I'll see you in the next video.